Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Care Experience with me, Peter Lamb.
Podcast.
What did I call it? Podcast.
No. I'm just adding on to it. Like when
Oh,
people
yeah.
finish each other's sentences.
Oh, right. Of course, I'm sure we're getting good at that, are we? So this is episode 8, and this is one that deals explicitly and exclusively with youth work, and specifically how youth work can help out the social care system and stuff like that. How youth workers could do with knowing a little bit more about the care system, and social care and social workers could do with knowing a little bit more about youth work beliefs.
Yeah. In both of the podcasts, it goes into how they can benefit each other. And so I was talking to Kieran Burke, and we were just talking about the curriculum that he studied, how he got into youth work. Like he was talking about like how people are treated the same and no one knows anyone else is in care, and like the youth groups and the dynamics and how all of that is sorted. And then he talks about how through meeting me and through Mary O'Neill that he learned about Epic, and he thinks more people, like more youth workers, should know about it. And it's the same kind of thing. It benefits each other, because if they know about Epic, like he's saying, like next time he sees someone with care experience, he'll like let them know about Epic, and it spreads more awareness, and then that young person can have an advocate that they may have not known about. So Karen just goes on that. We just have a chat about things like that, myself, himself, and just have a conversation. He's a brilliant man. He's a great person. He actually, that day or a few days afterwards, he actually let me borrow a load of his books. So, I need to be reading away, but the quarantine has me lazy.
How are you getting on with the quarantine? Or the self-isolation, or whatever we call it these days?
I'm grand. And I'm good. My schedule, sleeping, is gone out the window. Waking up at 12 o'clock and whole lot, and I don't want to, but I wake up and it's mad comfortable. So I'm like, we'll risk it today. We'll risk it.
Well, listen. Apparently, when you're asleep, that's when your body is creating all the antibodies that'll fight off the virus. So I think you're probably better off getting as much sleep as you can while this is all going down. Are you doing anything creative at all?
I'm trying to. I moved up back to Athlone, so I have 2 desks in my room at the moment. One's for like the keyboard, my Focusrite, like just equipment and all that crack, and then another one's just for writing, like songs, scripts, and all that. All the thing is, I just have to start doing it, which is start doing it again today, by getting into producing. It's hard to like, I feel personally like when it's something that's blank, I feel discouraged a bit, and then if the first thing that comes out is not that good, I feel more discouraged, and then I don't want to create as much because I'm not feeling it. But what I've recently, or like by learning the piano scales and chords and all that, just for music theory, for production, I realized that's helped me a lot. So I can look up the scale for a piano, lay something down, and like even if I don't use it, it's the fundamentals for me creating something else.
You have a framework there to work off.
Yeah, and I'm using Logic Pro X as a DAW, and before when I was creating, I used to like the instruments don't sound like as authentic, so I was like that doesn't matter. I'll just use ones that actually like experimental like plugins instead, and just go like it doesn't have to be like mad authentic, and just create. So I have to start doing that more. Like I have a lot of ideas, like always is just about actually implementing it and adding structure and discipline.
Yeah, these are all important stuff. I'm thrilled with myself. I've learned the girl from Ipanema. I don't really know that song. I learned it on the guitar. It's all those hard chords that I was always really afraid of, but no, they're not that hard. You just have to figure them all out. So it's a lovely song. Stan Guest wrote it, Astrid Gilberta. Yeah, nice bit of jazzy kind of bossa nova stuff there going on, and the girls are sick of me playing it now. I've only got a crappy old guitar that I got in a second-hand shop years ago. I don't have my bass guitar here with me. It's stuck over in Andy's shed. So I'm making the best of it, Now, speaking of creativity, Katelyn Kelly down in Cork has sent us in a few poems to read out for the podcast. We are so happy that she did this, and if anyone else is listening to the podcast who are from the care system, who have care experience, and they want us to read out some of her poetry or anything like that, we want to be able to be a platform for this kind of stuff. So please do send it in. We'll read it out, and we'll give you props. So Thomas is going to read out the first one, and then we're going to go into Kieran's
I'm going to read
interview, and then we're going to talk about a bit about the next interview, and we'll take it from there.
All right, son. Care by Katelyn Kelly. I'm just a girl who's full of hopes and dreams. Social workers don't rip me at the steams. I'm pretty and I'm precious like a flower. Please don't kill me with your power. I'm not just a number in your files. I'm going places for miles and miles. I've got a voice loud and wide. Just stand back and let me shine. Here I am, let me be. You'll see that I'm only just being me. I have emotions, I can cry. Don't put me down and walk away. I'm a human, free as can be. Open your eyes, look at me. I'm not a number or a fact. I'm a human, and that is that.
That was beautifully read, Thomas, for a play. Lovely, and thanks so much, Kate, for sending that in.
Yeah, no, beautiful. It's just like the way I was saying it was bad, like Shakespeare, just top notch stuff.
It was top notch stuff. Anyway,
I actually really like the poem though.
It's a lovely poem. I think it is a lovely poem. I was very struck when I was listening. She sent it in last night, and first of all, I was absolutely thrilled that we were getting stuff in, because that was always the point of it. I'm really happy that we are getting stuff. So anybody else who's listening, send it in. And thanks for all your nice comments and encouragement. I know for all the people who have listened to this podcast, it really means a lot.
Yeah, the feedback has been great. So if you have art, music, or anything, just send it in. Send it into Peter's email. Peter, do you want to give out an email?
I certainly do. Peter Lane at epiconline.ie. That's Peter Lane at epiconline.ie. Please send it
we'll
in.
Share it on. Sorry for cutting you off, Peter. We'll share it on our Instagram, YouTube, so and mention on the podcast. And
Absolutely.
we appreciate it. We think it's really interesting seeing you as well.
Okay, so this interview is Kieran. What was Kieran's second name?
This interview is Kieran Burke from Athlone Gateway. He's the educational officer. All right. So I'm joined by youth worker Kieran Burke, who is the educational officer in the Gateway Youth Project in Athlone, County West.
That's me. Thanks for having me, Tom.
Thanks for coming on. See, I remembered from last time. In the last podcast, I was like, what's your role actually? And I figured it out.
Did you explain to the listeners? You're saying there's a last podcast. They're going to go looking for that.
The lost podcast, as I call it, because the audio was messed up.
We both know it was probably the best podcast of all time. You know,
from being there, it was the best podcast of all time.
It felt magical to me. We recorded it in Gateway. This is our youth project in Athlone here. Before this whole coronavirus lockdown.
Oh, we're joking about the coronavirus as well, and look how far we've come.
We were kind of saying, it'd be great to get a week off school or something like that.
Oh yeah, we're joking about, like the kids would love it. And as I say, they're sick of it now.
Yeah, well, I say some kids are probably still loving it, but the rest of the country, not so much.
So I'm going to start off by asking, how did you get into youth work in the first place?
Oh yeah, God, like I was telling you, it wasn't really by great design or anything. It was more by accident. And then I ended up liking it more and doing it more. So I had not done any youth work until I was probably 27, 28.
Jesus.
Started volunteering in a after-school club. It was for primary school children out in Willow Park, which is a housing estate out near AIT there, the east side of Athlone. And like that so much, started doing more volunteering. So that brought me into Gateway. A guy called James Gork, who I went to school with, and was working in Gateway. And I just started doing more and more and more in Gateway in various roles. Again, the after school stuff, just helping people out during the day if they might be missing school or stuff like that. And then a couple of years ago, when the job of education officer came up, I kind of just had a good bit of experience built up, and I kind of changed what I was doing work-wise. So I said I'd just go and work in Gateway. I hadn't planned on it really before, but it kind of just happened over the space of a few years.
Great decision.
Yeah, it was. I'm happy with it. Youth work is a bit like that, though, isn't it? Like because I obviously know a good few youth workers now, and we all kind of come from different backgrounds. Like I'd originally worked in insurance and had done law in college, and then had stopped doing that, and when I was kind of working in factories and different stuff and building sites, and I kind of did a million different things. But youth workers tend to be like that. Even in Gateway, you probably noticed they come from so many different backgrounds. Obviously, the social work background is a big one, but there's other ones there too. Like, what are you studying in college, Tom?
I'm studying sound engineering and production. So that's like a range of different things. Well, obviously music production, recording technology, fundamentals of composition, a lot of different things.
You would that could lead to a career in music production, different stuff. But I know youth workers actually who have a similar background to that, and maybe through music generation or through other youth projects or something, kind of just became youth workers through kind of starting working with young people to something like music generation, where they're maybe given lessons or stuff like that. So you can kind of come from different backgrounds, and that's good because you kind of have a wide variety of people involved in like a youth project like ours. It's good to have difference in the adults that are trying to help the young people, because you can draw from different experiences then, different sources.
Just thinking about because I want to go into making films and stuff like that as well.
Deadly.
And it kind of works out perfectly because like sound, whether it's building something up in a scene or like just the soundtrack itself, like everything, you can change the whole mood and the emotion depends on the sound. And I'm literally like, I'm doing a H&D in that now, so like that kind of works out perfectly.
Oh yeah, like you can't have too many strings to your bow, if you know what I mean. You have a little bit of experience of all these different things. If you think about your experience in Gateway, or Gateway in general would fit in with what we're talking about, it's to kind of give people, obviously give them support when they need it. My side of things is more on the education side, but we all do little bits of everything to give young people as many different types of experience as possible. Like for people listening who don't maybe know the Gateway Youth Project, we're in Athlone in St. Mary's Hall here, but you were in Gateway Project longer than I've been even volunteering and working here. Could you list off all the different things that you did when you were coming down to Gateway?
We actually did a short film before. There's like art workshops. There's obviously the music things. There's so much different things, like obviously the army program. There's leadership.
I remember you winning a baking competition at some stage. Is that right?
I didn't win a baking competition. I got into some finals of a baking competition. I baked a rainbow cake. I went into the place, unprepared to bits. Jesus Christ. People had mad like themes to their thing. Like one was doing something about trains and all that. I was doing just cupcakes with some icing.
That sounds like Cool Runnings, but just with baking.
Yeah, I was mad underprepared. Someone was making like a bouquet of flowers, and he had like muffins and stuff, like as the flowers and as roses and stuff. I was like, Jesus, I'm out of my depth here. Like,
I can still picture a good montage of you like mixing up the stuff in the bowl and good 80s music.
I had the cocoa powder in the machine, and I forgot to put milk in it, and it was just boom, dust everywhere. Which is an amateur mistake. Like I was studying like home economics in school as well, so I should have known this. I've baked loads of times. In your defense, you were an amateur.
I was not entitled to make amateur mistakes.
Yeah.
But there's one thing. I think the bike, repairing the bikes.
The bike workshop was also
films. That's just an example of like all these different kind of social groups then, like the LGBT group, that they go off and prepare and go off to Pride in Dublin every year and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of a million and one different experiences you can have.
Like there was like learn how to play the drums at some stage.
Oh yeah,
guitar workshops. There's like so much different things. Tiffany Merrigan in there, who's a brilliant singer. She
fantastic.
like did some singing in there. Oh, there's some competitions. There's some talent shows and all that crack. Obviously, Halloween. There's Halloween stuff. Christmas. There's Christmas stuff like Christmas market. There's an entrepreneur kind of thing there as well, where it's what's it called? It's a thing, Nifty,
yeah.
Just
growing entrepreneurship program is deadly.
Yeah, it's serious. Just encouraging young people to do like a load of different things. It's one of those things that I think is brilliant as well, because like people don't know what they want to do, but like as you're saying, you're dipping into so much other different things.
That's the idea, that well, it's no harm to have all these experiences anyways, but through having them, you learn a bit more about yourself, and also you get ideas about where you might want to go. And you be an example of that. But also for other people, it's just a place to be, a kind of a friendly, safe place that if you need a bit of advice from someone, you can go. If you need to just go, and a place to literally be in out with the rain with your friends and have a game of pool or something.
Oh yeah, the youth club part of it, like like coming in like every Wednesday or Friday or something, and just playing pool, playing Xbox, playing board games, just talking, just having a cup of tea and all that. That's also
Here's
great.
one thing as well. Like, since becoming a youth worker and starting working Gateway and stuff, my pool game has come on a lot. My other friends that have office jobs and stuff, and they're, as they get older, getting worse at pool. They reckon I'm not working at all.
I reckon you're not working at all. You're doing a lot of stuff like that. You're a scammer. Now you're hustling people at pool.
It's all part of the process.
It's all part of life's journey.
Yeah.
So being in youth work, obviously, just being in environments, because you're thrown in front of like different personalities, different characters and all that, you have to deal with them accordingly and in a professional way. So how do you think training as a youth worker impacted that? And did you have a load of like these qualities and skills beforehand?
Interesting question.
Or did you learn them?
I learned them, and I think, if I was 21, I wouldn't have been maybe as equipped, but I suppose that's true of anybody, in those years, to the early 20s, mid 20s, again, just through life and doing all these different experiences and kind of being involved in charity fundraising and different stuff, you kind of build up some experiences, some kind of strengths. So then even when I just started training as a youth worker and volunteering as a youth worker and stuff, I was already more equipped for it. I'd had experience with young people as well through, I was kind of given maths grinds and stuff like that, and being involved in sports clubs and stuff. So there was a bit of a background there that it wasn't as daunting as it would have been when I was 20 or 21. It's probably true for everybody though, like, people will be graduating college and still, relatively immature. You're what? Are you 19? You're not 20 yet, are you?
No, I 20 in October, so 19, yeah.
Would you be kind of, compared to other 19-year-olds, quite mature?
Certain
in some ways.
Yeah, certain aspects I can be very immature at times. I'm making stupid jokes, which I'm trying to improve on, but
hey man, I'm 36 and a half. I still like the immature stuff.
But yeah, no, pretty much for most things. But then I don't like being too serious either.
No, well, see, seriousness, people sometimes mistake seriousness as kind of intelligence or maturity or something. And it's not really. Like, you can be overly serious sometimes.
Yeah, like most things, like it's not that serious. Like, it's not that deep.
No, but you could be doing the best work, and it doesn't really matter what field you're in. But you could be doing like your best work and working with a team you're really humming and it's great. you don't necessarily always have to approach it with this attitude of seriousness and kind of sternness. You actually, and that's probably the best when you're not even just in creative fields, but it would apply in creative fields, to be enjoying it and happy and enjoying cooperating with other people.
Sometimes you have to be blackguard. There's no ways, two ways about it. Sometimes you have to be blackguard.
Blackguard. Well, we've elected a lot of high quality blackguards in our day.
Yeah, maybe too much. There's a limit to the blackguard, and you don't know it until you reach it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things.
We have a cultural respect for the blackguard here, I think.
No, you have to like a bit of crack. Like you go some other places and like just mad serious and like stiffen it. Like it's like all right, like what way are you living it all like?
I know, like following the rules and all that.
No, like not just following the rules, just like just being too serious. Like, what's the point?
See, you can be productive. Like you can still be productive while having that little bit of blackguarding, if that's the word you're using.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a completely destructive person by just cracking a few jokes or something like that.
It depends on the jokes.
Yeah.
So when you were studying youth work in college, was there much on the curriculum about care? Do you know, like I know, like
it would depend on the course and it would depend on the modules that you were doing. In my one, there wasn't loads. It was kind of community and youth work kind of orientated thing. Whereas if you were doing maybe social studies or something like that, there would be more modules specifically about the care system, and that's because maybe some of those courses would be preparing people to go directly into social work, maybe working with TUSLA or something like that. So they would.
Do you reckon as a youth worker, because you would still be encountering a lot of people coming in?
Yeah,
you should learn a bit more about it.
I would say I learned more about it after the college part, and more like as a youth worker, you kind of go on different training things for different organizations, like the HSE are quite good for doing different training things. TUSLA as well, I have to say, and other organizations will do different training things about one particular issue.
Yeah.
There's like good mental health training, for example, that comes if you're a youth worker. You get good from Mental Health Ireland training, and there'll be different days spread out over the year. So there's been to a few of them about the care system, and that's probably where I learned more about it than in the kind of academic way. And really through work and talking to young people like yourself that are in the care system, but also other social workers and youth workers that are, that have the experience and are kind of dealing with it. As I said, in my work, I would deal with a good few people from the care system. So I'd be talking to their caseworkers, and if they're maybe in a residential thing, I'd be talking to the people working in the residence and figuring out stuff, mainly around schooling with my thing about school places and just accessing the education that they need. Like,
true, because you've been doing youth work for a while now. So would your approach for people who are in care and people who have no care experience like at all, would it be the same, or would you have to kind of like alter it a bit?
For young people, you mean?
Yeah, for young people.
Generally, I would say the same, and I would kind of, as an ethos, just with what I'm doing, try to have, maybe it wouldn't be exactly the same, but it wouldn't necessarily be because of a care background.
Just a character kind of thing.
It might, if I work with people, quite often I work with people that might have fairly big troubles in school and trouble finishing school, or maybe disciplinary problems and stuff like that. So for me to be any good to them, I'll work on an individual relationship first. And then maybe they can join in some of the group stuff that we're doing in Gateway later on, and that can help everything. Everything will be linked up in Gateway. But so any changes in my approach would probably be more to do with the individual personality of that, rather than me saying, oh, well, this person here is the care system, so I'm going to use this bag of tricks, and this person over here is living in direct provision, so I'm going to treat them like this. I'd already do that. I can't imagine. Maybe there are some jobs that would require that, but mine doesn't really. I said any variance in approach is just to do with
the person.
Yeah, and it takes maybe a few weeks and a few sessions to for the person to trust you and you to get a sense of what that person, how they relate to other people or how they would like to relate to you. And so it's all quite individual, but I wouldn't say it'd be based on, well, you're living in a residential care or you're, coming from a different background. Not really. But that could be the case in some other.
I was just curious because it's I think it's better to like just based on a character and like not adding more onto that. But I was just interested because like obviously if someone's in residential or foster care, they may have some other stuff that they're dealing with personally and all that. So I was like, would their approach be different because it's like they've been going through a bit more or whatever? Like,
yeah. Well, like obviously, and actually, you're the one with probably the more direct experience. Anyways, like if you're working with someone and you're in the care system and you're getting supported specifically for that by your caseworker, for example, obviously their approach is based on people living in the care system.
Yeah.
Whereas in Gateway, it's a youth project setting. I said I'm focusing on helping people finish school, or if they can't, get some training and or employment or whatever way we can do it there. But in the youth project, it wouldn't be necessary really. You're trying to be aware of everyone's background, and obviously if there are times of crisis and stuff, to give them the support that they need. But in a lot of the group things that you did, for example, the army program, we did training with the Irish Army. If you think about the guys involved in that, how many different backgrounds could you say?
There's
the background or the approach to that training was not, oh well, this bunch of people here are coming from here, and this other bunch they're coming from here. These people have this experience. It was really, lads, you're all in this together.
Yeah, it was. Everyone was split into teams. All the teams were mixed up, and
we thought about the way they were mixed up from the start, as in like, okay, which personalities are going to work well together, and say in your team, they need someone who's good at communication in each team. Well, that was you, you'd had a lot of good communication experience by then, and someone else in the team was like, well, that person's a bit quiet, but they've loads of other attributes that they're going to bring to the team.
Yeah, I think that was brilliant.
But it wouldn't have been based on anything other than personality type, really.
Yeah, I think that's the best way of going about it. And I think it's more of an authentic way, and it's less prejudgment and stuff like that. It's more like, oh, you as a character, you as a person. And that's the way I've always been treated as well, as just me as a person rather than anything else. Like, it's not a topic like...
People are who they are. You don't really have to ring fence that or really rubber stamp it and say, okay. Because in the youth project setting, we deal with different people with different backgrounds. But if we said, okay, this is going to be a program just for the guys who are living in direct provision. This is a problem just for travellers. This is a program just for people in the care system or people just on the autistic spectrum or something. I don't think it'd be that productive, really. And it would kind of, in a way, isolate the people more than integrate them, which is what really part of what we're trying to do, at least. Give them confidence to just face the world or the working world or the college world or whatever.
And a load of people come out of their shell, like Billy and stuff like that, where they become more confident and they're speaking up more. So I think programs like the Army program was brilliant. Like, it was like a sense of community, teamwork, leadership, supporting each other. I think it was just a crack overall. Like, and
that was really good. That was a great one.
That was brilliant. Yeah.
We started doing another one, because that was such a great one. The Irish Army program, in summer of 2017, I think it was 2018, maybe. We had just started one recently in the barracks in Athlone. Again, another 20 lads. Again, a bit like an 80s movie, a ragtag bunch of lads from the Athlone area arrived.
Blackguard.
A couple of guys who were probably the youngest on your one are now the older guys. They're the leaders. Tiago and Washington and a few lads like that. But it's great. Like, it's obviously suspended now because of the whole Corona thing, and the Army are doing loads of different work. But we'll be taking it up again. And
Yeah,
like, you wouldn't have thought of yourself as a military man, would you?
no, I can't. Anyways, I'm diabetic, so
Yeah.
like I'd be
You get a good
I'd be affected anyways.
experience from that and kind of confidence, I suppose.
No, I thought it was brilliant overall. I think it should be something that goes on more, like all the Q clubs. I think it would help people's character and development an awful lot.
I would have loved that if I was well, actually, I probably wouldn't have loved it, but it would have been good for me. When it was,
So there's organizations. I'm on a youth council for Epic, Empowering People in Care,
brilliant.
who's sponsoring this podcast, or they've got the podcast going. And there's other organizations all over the world. Like there's one in Scotland called Who Cares Scotland, and there's like so many different ones. So I want to ask you, since you were a youth worker with experience, how do you think like Epic, for example, and youth workers and youth centers and youth clubs and all this can work together to spread awareness for like organizations like Epic, because like they're an advocacy service as well, which will benefit
that's a
people
really
who
good
care.
question, because like my awareness of Epic, just to be specific to Epic, now today compared to 1 year ago is so much bigger. It's really through you, and then little different connections that I've seen the Epic work. Like you had Care Week. How long ago was that? It was last month.
So basically, it was Care Day, and so like celebrating up to Care Day was which on the Friday. There was like some celebrations and there's like things going on, and then the ultimate celebration on Friday, and there was a celebration on the Thursday to celebrate the younger kids in care that were under 18, and that was in the Mansion House, which was good. They had finger food, they had tea, they had coffee.
Nice.
I was there. They asked me to do speak at it, so I did an introduction to explain a bit about Epic, give some positive words, give some positive encouragement to the masses. There was performances from this little rapper called MC Tiny, who was on the Late Toy Show. He was gone mad. He was getting everyone to do the words and whole lot. I was shouting out the words. It was brilliant. And then they went on the Viking Splash Tour, so it was a great day for them. And the next day, and it was cool. I missed out on the Viking Splash Tour. I got lunch with Terry, the CEO of Epic, and I missed out. But I robbed a load of pens from the Mansion House. I robbed. Do you know? I say a load.
No, don't say that. They were for everybody. So
they were free. They were free. I did not rob anything, but I took them all.
Did you share them with other people afterwards?
Yeah, I gave them the people.
Good. So you're like a good-hearted blackguard. You're essentially Robin Hood.
Basically, I tried to. I got some pictures like standing up beside the paint and the whole lot. Pure
pure. You're just in the Mansion House and rubbing elbows with CEOs and stuff.
Yeah, it was.
But to talk about Epic for a second, because through that, and there was that cool article in the Irish Times, and you'd recorded a song, and then you did that interview 2FM. There was
the Late Toy Show. No, the Late Show, not the Late Toy Show. Jesus Christ.
Well, okay, so the different things, like your song and the Times article. Okay, Gateway. We would share that through our social media, just because you're one of ours, and we're kind of proud of you, anyways. So, but everyone at Lone is now aware of Epic that they weren't before. Now they might not think about Epic till the next time they hear the thing, but they've at least had at least a few moments of thinking about people in the care system, because it can be a kind of an invisible thing. So in your college course, you don't stand up on the first day. My name is Thomas and I'm from the care system. So not everyone is thinking about it all the time, but that awareness, which I know is only part of what Epic are doing, but as well as supporting you and giving you outlets as well, they're creating an awareness of there's a sizable enough chunk of our population here that's coming out of this system. What are the different facets of that system? Different types of care? What are the issues that people face when they emerge from it? If one of my friends that I make in college or work or whatever, and they've been through the care system, it would help to have at least have thought about that before. It's not like you're speaking to someone that you think they're from another planet or something like that, you at least have thought about what is the care system.
Yeah, that is a good way of looking at it, because
Break it down the nuts and the bolts. Like you just say the care system, and people maybe just stop thinking, I don't know what that is. But the work that you've been doing, and I know Peter and all the other ones at Epic, people are certainly, well, what is that? There's that, okay, that's residential care, that's foster care,
and the question is absolutely okay, like asking what it is, because if I wasn't in care, I wouldn't have known about it either. Like,
yeah,
like it's good. It's well, if you're interested in it, it's good thing just to know about, like different families and stuff in Ireland and across the world. Like,
and through that article, and Ryan Tubridy and the 2FM thing, good questions came from that as well. Like, and I think whether was it, I can't remember the guy's name, but one of your friends is all about just setting up a bank account, and
oh yeah,
that address to go on.
Dylan Nolan, yeah, he found it very hard to even set up a bank account, and
if we wouldn't have thought about
to even applying for a grant, which someone got accepted the same day. It took him ages. Like just it's small, it's like stuff like that, and then there's obviously a larger scale with homelessness and lack of support in certain areas. Like aftercare is better in certain areas than other areas, and also depends on the workers as well.
But the awareness that's created in the general population is good, just for the general population. But also, like watching that and reading those interviews and all that, are the people who maybe, when the new grants for college, like now it's the Susie grant, when that's being designed, it's in their head now, okay, what about someone coming from a care background? What hurdles would they face? Have we built this into the system, or is the system that we've built just not fully equipped to treat everyone the same? Because, okay, you can say treat everyone the same, but everyone's not just starting with the same pack of cards.
Yeah, exactly.
So they might have to just think about it when they're designing the system a bit more. And that's what Epic are doing there, keeping this conversation kind of in people's heads and doing it in a really positive way. Obviously, they're giving you outlets to express yourselves and different things. This podcast is a really cool thing.
Yeah, I think just awareness and having information there if people want to take it. And like the podcast is good because it has like a load of different things. We did one on homelessness. We did like one with the CEO of Tusla. Like there's like a load of touching on different kind of things. We're going to do one on addiction, like one on youth work. So it's, if you don't want to read about it, you can listen to it. And if you're interested even more, then you can read about it and like look at articles and all that. Not all articles, some of them are infactual.
True. That's
not
the skill in itself, negotiating that kind of minefield.
At the end of the day, like articles are juiced up to anything, like it's kind of juiced up for people to view it. And that's how our podcast is different. Ours is authentic. Like if you don't want to, we get what we get. We don't push.
Yeah.
I don't even want to push.
Conversation, people will kind of have an impression of who we both are. Blackguards, but their heart is in the right place.
I hope that's true. Epic and youth clubs are like just organizations for care, and youth clubs I think go hand in hand.
Big time.
I think like even having like an Epic poster up just with the service, like if everyone in the country, for example, just printed off one, that's not going to cost huge money to print off one poster and hang it up. And for people who have no idea, like no care, whatever, it's not going to bother them. But that one person who does have care experience, actually I need an advocate, because there's on a website now you can even contact them via the website instead of actually calling as well. So like you can get in contact with them easier and more efficiently, and like all this stuff as well. So like it's going to be easier for them to get in contact and have that little bit of difference, like an advocate for even going to the care review meetings or whatever they need help with.
And that information does spread, like, well, for want of a better word, virally. It does go viral because youth workers and social workers and community workers are kind of meeting up all the time and chatting and talking about different things. So when you're encountering people in the care system, you might go, well, what is there when someone is 18 and they're pushing on? And EPIC is kind of a word, a name of an organization that's out there now. It's not full 100% blanket awareness of it, but it's in the system now, so it'll become more and more prevalent in conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to finish off on what we finished off originally on the last one, and that's the Big Brother Big Sister program. I think this is a brilliant program. I want to give it whatever light it can be shined on it.
I love the Big Brother Big Sister.
Do you want to explain it a bit so people know about it?
Well, as I said, the Gateway Youth Project is based here in St. Mary's Hall. There's other things based here as well, like St. Mary's Karate Club, for example, is here longer than anywhere else. It's probably the coolest thing in the whole place. But the Big Brother Big Sister program, which Carmel Nocton runs, and is a international program, it's basically a mentoring program. So if there's a young person that feels like they would, or someone feels that they would benefit from having an older person to talk to, or just have a friend, really, that's what the Big Brother Big Sister is. So if you were 14 years old and either yourself or parent or guardian or someone else thought, what, I'll talk to Thomas, does he mind if I nominate him for this Big Brother Big Sister? Then they would try match you up with an older person that kind of suits or matches somewhat with your interests, or if you were interested in, say, I don't know, fishing, for example, it would try, is there an older volunteer that they have that might bring you fishing every couple of months or every couple of weeks, probably, and even just go for a cup of coffee, a game of pool, like we're talking about earlier. The minimum commitment is an hour, I think, an hour per week to meet up. I'm not sure if I have that right, but it's a regular.
An hour a week, and then a minimum staying with them as a year, because we
get volunteers in for different programs here in Gateway, but in the Big Brother Big Sister, the volunteering is a bit more of a commitment because you have to volunteer for at least a year. And, the training, there's a bit more training that goes into it, obviously, because it's one-on-one with a young person. And it's quite often not in the youth project environment. It's out somewhere else, going to watch a football match, whatever they're doing, just going to a gig or something. But from all the volunteers that I've talked over the years and the young people, they get so much out of it. As well as just meeting up, there is organized events like a few times a year to be a big Big Brother Big Sister event, and they'll have a whole day's adventure activities in, I don't know, Delphi or what's the one in Westmead near Mullingar? Lilliput. Those kind of cool outdoor adventure centres, or they'll even have just different bowling nights and stuff like that.
And once a year, do you go to Las Vegas?
You do not go to Las Vegas, Thomas.
False news.
Father Ted thing. When he was just resting in my account.
Yeah, the brilliant program. If you're interested in it, you can find it by just contacting your local youth club.
Definitely.
Find more information online.
Big Brother Big Sister Ireland. There'll be a list of kind of local coordinators. I said Carmel Nocton is the one. She's based in the Gateway Youth Project in St. Mary's Hall. She covers a couple of counties, if you know what I mean. So the nationwide, and I said it's actually international. It's an international organization, so it's quite a cool thing. So people would recognize it as well, as a, people are always talking about CVs and stuff like that. But if that's on a CV, employers and everybody kind of recognize that as a worthwhile program.
Absolutely. I want to close off episode 8 by saying thank you for coming on again, virtually this
Thanks,
time.
Thomas, again. As I said, there were the same questions, but I don't know that I give you the same answers, because that was in the before Corona time. That was BC we were talking.
Yeah. It feels like so long ago. It feels like 2 days.
It's probably good that we couldn't have released that now, because I think we were having a bit of a laugh and a joke about it.
I were just saying,
if we released that now, we'd be getting lynched.
We would be getting lynched. We'd be getting threats and a whole lot. Unfortunately, no one can leave their house, so the threats wouldn't be as effective. But
are you thinking about doing a podcast about kind of how this has affected people in the care system and stuff?
We did a podcast just talking about COVID-19, and we're just talking about like some positive things you can do about staying happy, staying healthy. Thanking all the workers, hospitals, professionals, essential workers doing their jobs, supermarkets, everything, delivery drivers and all that. Just thanking all of them for what they're doing. Because without trying to sound cringe, because I've seen a lot of people like post stuff about this. Like it does kind of boil down to like, you know, like essential workers. Like this is the core of the world. Like how important is all these other like brands or whatever?
How important are the marketing and strategic managers?
They're like it's always been promoted that like, oh, this is what you need to do to be successful, happy, and to make a difference and all that. And most of those things that have been promoted at you have shut down, and it's left with the proper important jobs that make the difference. Like people may look down on a janitor, but if the building was a mess and all that, like, you know, like how would you feel? So it's like about treating everyone with respect.
Well, maybe they think if you are trying to take the positives from it after all this is over, people again have at least just had that thought. I think putting out thoughts out there like you just did, the more than what I was talking about Epic before, just people having that thought, oh, the cleaners are really important. That changes societies a little bit, I think. People's priorities and how they treat other people. Just by having that thought in these weeks or months that we're dealing with this.
Maybe it's a good time to stay still and self-reflect on society and what we've been told and what we need to unlearn. Because like just on the cleaner thing again, like if you go in hospitals, like the cleaners, like cleaning the bed, fixing like the people making the food, like dealing with all this stuff, like vital, like.
Well, service, to live in service isn't like a dirty word anymore. It's like that's a really brave thing that they're doing. They're serving.
Yeah, and
ways you can do it.
It's amazing. They're holding up the world at the moment. So fair play to them. Okay, thank you for coming on again. And
thanks a million, T.
This has been episode 8.
Epic. See you later on.
Kieran seems like a sound fella, and he's have a good rapport there. Fair play. And it's important that young people, you know, when they go in, I always think youth projects can be such a great be a huge benefit to kids in care as well, because it's almost like an extra bit of belonging in the community that they're in there with. Sometimes we think that there's not as much importance given to them by the social work, social care team around them. And oftentimes, as an advocate, I would have had young people saying to me, listen, I want to, if you're going to move my placement, how are you going to keep me included with the youth project I'm at? They would see their youth project as being more beneficial to them than the school, because some of the relationships, they feel a bit more respected in there, as like Kieran was talking about. And they feel as if they have a bit more belonging in there, and they feel like they actually matter a bit more with the whole informal education and non-formal education, which suits an awful lot of young people who've been through the care a bit more than the sitting in a classroom where you're kind of the subject, you're just kind of you're not like a vessel that information is being poured into. That oftentimes doesn't suit young people. I don't think it suited me when I was young either. And sometimes I think that the way the education works in youth projects is a little bit better. So before I go into my next interview, which is with a lecturer in youth studies and youth work, applied social studies out over in Maynooth. His name is Mick O Brien. He's also a broadcaster. He does, and he's on Dublin City FM. He does a traditional and folk thing in there, and he's also in a band who regularly go tour in Australia and America and places like this. We're called the Druids. But first, before I go, I'm going to read out a poem from Katelyn Kelly. And once again, I say fair play to you for sending that in. So this is called The Reality of 18 by Katelyn. I'm 18, a young adult, or so they say. I've got responsibilities now from today. What one day changes makes your life the same. Why am I not now grown up? I was not grown up before. So why is it here knocking at my door? Why do they consider me now ready when I don't know what's ahead for me? I'm 18, no mistake can be made. One mistake and I won't get paid. Here I am, all alone and afraid. Wonder what pathway of life I should take. Life for me is a struggle. I've more hurdles to climb. You may think it's easy, but in reality it's not. Please think twice before you judge. I've a lot more on my plate than you've thought. Thanks a million for that, Katelyn. I know, powerful stuff, isn't it?
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Do you reckon we should start doing it in different accents?
What
Spice it up.
accent? What accent would you go for? Like, how would we? Once we're not guilty of cultural appropriation or anything like that, I might go for, like, if I'm going to really mix it up, I might put on a Naas accent instead of a Newbridge accent. You know, really kind of, or maybe.
I might put down an old Roscommon accent instead.
Would you?
Bring out the farmers.
I don't know. I don't want to freak people out altogether. You know, like how a lot of people from Naas coming down and be saying, "Oh, what are you doing with my accent, man?"
Yeah, it's not the best idea, because like someone could be listening to it and be like, Jesus, who are these people? And it gets startled.
Yeah, we could lose our listenership as well. Like, you know, no, we don't.
Yeah.
No, we won't do accents. We do our own accents, keep it authentic, and I think that's our best bet. Yeah. Speaking of authentic, this is going to be our interview with Mick O Brien, who was great lad to give up his time on a Sunday to do the interview. Hope you enjoy it. Now we have Mick O Brien, broadcaster, musician, youth worker, educator. Is there anything else you need to add in there, Mick?
I think that's enough, Peter.
It'll do you for now, anyway. Thanks a lot for giving up your time. It's a Sunday afternoon, and thanks a million for giving up your time for this. This podcast is all about where youth work intersects with social care and social work, and how best they can all work together. Thomas, who co-presents this podcast with me, he's a strong advocate for youth. He's a care leaver himself, and he's a strong advocate for youth work and using youth work for people with care experience, with people who are leaving care and people who are in care. And I know from my experience working in Reds, working in the care system, and from coming across you when you were a youth worker doing that, I know that there is a great, I'm going to use the word intersectionality. Isn't that very fancy of me? But they can complement each other they can complement each other a lot. And I think, if this is a long preamble, but I think if youth workers knew a bit more about the care system, and social workers knew a little bit more about, and social care workers knew more about youth work values, I think the whole outcomes for young people would all be a little bit better. So yeah, you can go. You can have all the rest of the podcast now.
No, I think that's a fair comment. I think traditionally, if we look historically at the three professions that you've mentioned, which are kind of seen as the three caring professions, I think first of all, historically, our starting point is coming from the very same place. So a kind of a charity kind of based kind of model where the three particular professions we're setting out to help people. That word help is very important. So help people kind of in their hour of need, help people at a time in their life when they particularly needed that support. Somewhere down along the line, particularly I think probably in the late 70s and late 80s, or late 70s, early 80s, particularly social care and youth work kind of came to a crossroads, and one went on the right-hand side and the other went on the left-hand side, and I mean politically as well, right?
Yeah.
So very much social care kind of maintained that status quo of trying to assist and help, where youth work took the left-hand turn and kind of went down the road of kind of advocating on behalf of young people, and not just advocating, but also challenging the status quo as well. You mentioned youth work values around equality, around participation, around empowerment, but very much coming from a left-wing agenda in terms of trying to change the system, acknowledging that there's serious inequalities, like massive inequalities for young people in Irish society, and none more than young people in care, in the care and system, where the system effectively is broken in terms of the support that it offers. It offers it to a particular age, and then you're out of the system, and once you're gone, you're gone. That's horrific, I think, and certainly from a youth work point of view, we would say it's very unfair, it's very unequal, and I believe that youth work can be a model and can be a place where them challenges are still made, and made in a very constructive and sometimes subtle way as well, and not necessarily a head-on approach, but a subtle kind of challenge can be made to the state, and I think that's actually youth work's job to do that.
Yeah, I remember the very first week when I went to Maynooth doing the course, and I had come from a social care background, and I was going, but I always had it naturally. I think I had a bit more of a youth work, community work kind of ahead on me, but Anastasia was the head of the course at that stage. And she was asking us all, why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this? And I made the mistake of saying, I just like helping people. And she goes, no, it's not about helping people. And I said, oh shit, what's wrong with helping people? But I got it then afterwards. And I think even as an advocate now in the care system, I know if I've got a young person and I'm working with them, usually I will email a social worker or whoever it may be and CC them in, CC the young person on it. But I know that the advocacy piece has worked if they're emailing the social worker, social care worker, or manager, and they're CCing me in it. And it always gives me a great thrill when that happens. It's always a great.
Yeah, that's a powerful example actually of a youth work approach, where that kind of idea of nothing for me without me, nothing for us without us. So sometimes in the world out there, in the world of the social professions, the care and professions, young people are talked about. They are kind of
subjects.
Subjects is right.
Yeah.
Rather than active participants in something that involves their life, that is their life. You know what I mean? And particularly in the caring area, you are actually dealing with their lives. That's what you're dealing with. You're actually dealing with the totality of their lives, not just the section, but the totality of their lives.
And it strikes me as being particularly counterintuitive when you're taking away a young person's agency. And there has to be a power. There is, of course, there's a power dynamic there. Like the state has come in and for reasons which are overwhelmingly right, had to take the child off their family. It's particularly ironic that the young person, they may not be able to participate in as much of their decisions about their own life as they can, but then at the age of 18, they're expected to have total agency of their life afterwards. Whereas, in the young person who would not have been taken away from their family still has that cushioned home to go back to, or staying at home up until they're, about whatever it is in Western Europe these days, 26, 27, even later,
Yeah, absolutely. I think I remember during my time in practice as a youth worker in various different places, I was involved on a number of occasions of referring young people, first of all, to the social work department, and then in some cases further on, they were taken into the care system because of that referral. I was involved in a couple of court cases as well, and I was shocked and stunned just how little input the young people themselves had within the case. Whereas we as youth workers were making the case in the court all the time that we should consult with the young people. Having done a bit of research, then I discovered that on the UN Conventions on the Rights of the Child, that it's actually enshrined within that. It's enshrined within that. Yeah, where young people should be consulted within that. So I think in terms of youth work, that's a role that we can play. I know there's a guardian ad litem as well, appointed by the court and whatever, but depending on the quality of that person and depending on I suppose what lengths they're willing to go to, we can still have a part in that in terms of youth work, because we're the ones that hold that relationship and hold that currency with the young people in a lot of cases.
Exactly, and it was one of the things I was going to, even in terms of there was a article in the Cork Examiner last week there about, a young person has a right to participate in their child and care review, which is a 6-monthly review of what's going on in their children, and very few, very few of them, there's a big fall off in the amount of the young people who are actually engaging or taking up that right. And I can understand why, because it's a very adult-oriented meeting. You could be sitting there, your headmaster could be there, your foster carer could be there, your mum could be there, your dad could be there, you could be a psychologist there, and it's not a very child-centered area, environment. Oftentimes, what I would hear of young people is, I'm not going to that, they've already made up their mind what's going to happen. But one of the things that Epic try our best to do is to encourage them to keep going to it. Because if you want stuff to change, you need to go in to do that piece. Now, Epic, the young person has a right to involve an Epic advocate to come out, prep them for it and all. But youth workers have that, oftentimes they'd have that relationship with young people there, and they'd be able to do that. Now, like youth workers, if they had a bit more knowledge about the care system, and I'd say some of them, an awful lot of them do, but if they had a bit more maybe confidence then to be able to talk to the young people about their stuff, their form stuff, I think that'd be really helpful across the board.
Yeah, I'd agree with you 100%. I think one of the things I believe that we should in youth work teach is some of that policy, the Child Care Act. We should be teaching that in terms of content on our course, where in fact we don't, so I think if we did kind of go down along that road a bit, that it would enable youth workers to not only kind of have that knowledge, but also be able to position themselves in terms of what role can I play here within this. Because I think in terms of youth work, I'm not sure about social care or social work, but I can speak about youth work, is that this is the live show and it's changing all the time. So we're responding as youth workers to different crises that come along on a daily basis. So at one time we were responding to a drugs crisis. We still are, of course, as well, but in a kind of a new fashion we were back in the 1990s. Then we were responding to an immigration crisis. Then we were responding to an economic recession crisis. Now we are responding to homelessness, young people in homelessness, and of course comes with that more young people in care as well. So I think we need to upskill ourselves. We need to kind of change the focus a little bit and change with the times as well. So I think that's a really good point, Peter. Yeah, it's a really good point.
How are you getting on with the COVID-19 crisis within youth work? How are you adapting? How is the service adapting? And I'd imagine it's across board, everyone's had to adapt. And I think everyone's really adapted. It's amazing how humanity can adapt so quickly, how resilient we are. And even the outbreak of trust in the government, I never thought I'd see that. Like, never thought I'd be happy to see Leo up there in his calm, doctorly way. He's kind of a reassured. He's still there. Oh, you're there.
Yeah, still there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a kind of a reassuring presence up there at the moment. I'm almost at.
Be careful, Peter. Be careful.
I know it's had this COVID thing has had an awful effect on me altogether. Oh God, it's really I don't know what end of me is up.
I think youth workers are responding to it. They're adapting and they're responding to it. I just hear kind of anecdotally, a lot of youth workers now are kind of having online groups with people through Zoom and through other kind of platforms as well. There's part of it, I think, that's exciting. There's part of it that's new, that's kind of novel, and young people are responding to it. Young people are more technical savvy than any of us are, so they're big into it at the moment. So far, so good. It's working. I don't know in the long term, could you maintain that for any kind of greater length of time, because youth work is about relationships. It's about, fundamentally it is about relationships. It's about that youth work relationship, which happens kind of shoulder to shoulder, and can you continue the IT stuff possibly for another while, but not in the long term, I think,
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Like, we're doing a lot of meetings and stuff here. Remotely. We're working from home, but you can't be actually meeting a young person straight, face to face, striking up that rapport. And there's a lot of there's something missing. We're getting by with it. We're getting the stuff done, and we're seeing a lot of young people are finding it very difficult to be in, and especially in res. They're when they're coming out, and there's a lot of. It's a funny time to be talking about rights, because in a way all our rights are taken. We can't even really leave our house, and then some young people aren't socially isolating, and they're hearing staff are getting, the social care staff are getting annoyed about this, because they have a right to their safety and their health as well, so it's a very strange time to be a rights-based practitioner, because there's so many conflicting rights going on at the same time,
Well, I think, as you rightly say, I think our fundamental right is freedom. Our fundamental right is this idea of liberation, of having agency to make decisions around your own kind of independence or whatever. And when that's taken away, well, then all bets are off or changed. Like I do hear in the media quite a lot about young people kind of being put down and saying that they're not adhering to social distance, and that they're out there kind of in groups and gangs and all that kind of stuff. I have to say that's not my experience. I haven't seen that. I also kind of I've been reminding people as well. It wasn't young people that started this either. It wasn't young people who kind of made fundamental mistakes at the beginning of this in Ireland. It was adults that made fundamental mistakes.
Absolutely.
So I think we have to remember that as well. I think as well. I have serious sympathy for young people in their teenage years who are cooped up in houses all day. They have an energy within them that needs to be expelled. And to kind of be indoors and be expected to be indoors apart from a brief period of exercise every day is horrific. Like, it's akin actually to being locked up in some senses. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you've been studying for the last, since you've been in school, you've been studying for this thing called the Leaving Cert, and all of a sudden it's may not even be there anymore. Like the rug is totally been taken out from under them. Like, I'm in a very, very privileged and lucky position, really, living down the bog here. So we've a bit of room around us. The kids are of an age that they're happy enough to stay home. They're only 8 and 10. They haven't realised I'm an arsehole yet. They're still thinking I'm all right. I think it's quickly coming about. They still think I'm sound, but I'm not sure how long that'll last. But it's all right. There's a bit of cabin fever, but we're getting on with it. It'll be interesting to see how and if the economy, how that comes back then as well.
I think my fear is that would say the last time that we had a recession, an economic recession back in the kind of 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10 kind of era. One of the first things to be cut was youth work. So we were cut by in the region of about 35% of our funding, cut like overnight, with absolutely no resistance to it whatsoever, because youth work is a very small kind of field, about 1,400 professional workers. Now there's lots of other volunteers, of course, thousands of volunteers involved, but it's still, in a sense, we're not organised. We don't have a representative body to engage with the state to say, hang on there, while every other kind of area of care was cut in the region of 10%, we took 35% of the hit. So I'd be fearful around that. Although I'd also be hopeful in the sense that I think once some of the restrictions are lifted again, and eventually when we got rid of it, because we will get rid of it, sooner or later, I think the country's in a really good position. We're not starting from zero. We're many steps ahead, I think.
Yeah, and I think because we've been through that one last time, I feel there is genuinely a kind of recalibration of what is important after the hangover of the Celtic Tiger. We didn't really have that as much this year, at this time around, and it's not just a couple of bankers acting just being able. This is a really serious thing that's going on worldwide, and we've had to look out for the more vulnerable people. And I think if you're looking even across the water to America or the UK, it was shading on the side of eugenics over there. Like they were just going to take the hit off the elderly and the vulnerable, the huddled masses. Like they were literally, the huddled masses were really going to get it, because they're not socially distanced.
But I think, though, Peter, in this country, I think it's been let's try and look at the positives for a second, right?
Yeah.
I think it's been a really, really good opportunity to stop and pause. I just talk about myself for a second. For the last 5 or 6 years, I haven't stopped at all. I've been working more or less 7 days a week for the last 5 or 6 years. And I only realised it, a couple of weeks ago when you can't work anymore, and you go, Jesus Christ, what do I do with myself? Like, you know what I mean? What do I actually do? And now what I'm diving into is music for free,
Yeah.
Where
I know.
in the band that I play in over the last number of years, we don't play for free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a business element attached to it.
Yeah.
Which is a pain in the arse. And I've realised now, again, the value of music. Free music. Playing music for enjoyment, playing music for crack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's powerful.
It is. I mean, spending, like I'm talking about the two girls, but spending a bit of time with them and playing a bit of music with them, and trying to inculcate a bit of love for music with them and spending hours and hours and hours, really enjoying the homeschooling that myself and Mary are kind of putting in with them. We're getting them doing a few composing poems and stuff like that. The whole trick with them, but I said you're allowed to use rude words if you write poetry, so they're flat out writing poems. So that worked. Yeah, no, they're hilarious. They're really funny, peppered with rude words and pretty depressing. Like they're all dying in the end as well. So. Yeah, and we're up in the bog. We're up in the bog with the tadpoles and the frog spawn, the roseberry caviar, as we call it. But really getting into nature, and we're just lucky we're in a spot. And I know that an awful lot of people aren't, like, you know what I mean, up in the flats and places like that. And I know it really made me appreciate how lucky I am. And how lucky my family are, because like even in the last couple of weeks I was up in some of the homeless services up around Gardner Street, where you see full families living in a small room, and it's, you know what I mean, I don't know how they're gonna, I really don't know how this is going to affect their mental health and stuff like that. It's going to be very very tricky, like,
Yeah, I wonder on a macro level, my hope again would be on a macro level that the government of our wonderful country, whatever that turns out to be, or whoever that turns out to be, that maybe they've had an opportunity as well to pause and understand this thing called humanity a bit more, where I obviously I was very impressed, and I'm sure you were as well, where they were coming out and saying, look, it doesn't matter how much this costs, we're going to provide for people, we're going to try and assist people and help people in whatever way we can, right?
Yeah.
That's very powerful, really. That's really, really powerful, and you have to take your hat off to that. I would love to see that continue, after this is finished. I would love to see that continue for young people in care, for young people in homeless situations, for young people in addiction, for people who are living in abject poverty. In this country, I would love to see that continue, and here is a window, and here is an opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. And listen, I might leave it at that. Mick, thanks a million for giving up your time. I really enjoyed that conversation. As soon as we have it up now, we'll let you know, and mind yourself, okay? Take care.
Thanks, Peter. Fair play to you. Good man. Look after yourself. Thanks a lot.
You too. Grand. So
nice pause.
Yeah, it was a good pause. So there was the interview with Mick. What do you think of
that? It was an awful interview all the same. It was really informative interview for me listening to it. I listened to it actually when I was playing NBA 2K20. Just chilled out and listened to it, and yeah, it was great. I thought it was interesting, and I thought it was great, highlighting the fact that the last time the country was fecked over, afterwards 35% of the youth workers are laid off.
Yeah.
And just how in both podcasts we're talking about the importance of youth workers.
Yeah.
So like, just make sure after this COVID thing that doesn't happen again,
Yeah.
because there's a huge need for them. They're like essential workers as well. Like, they do amazing jobs, you know.
I agree, and it's very hard. Sometimes it's very hard to quantify what it is that they do. It's very hard to actually put a number or a figure on it. And I know sometimes with people who are in charge of numbers or figures, they like to see that quantifiable. This is what. So it's very hard to actually put. It is very important, and you don't want youth workers having to sit in the offices doing up paperwork to prove that it is important in their communities, that the youth have something to do and something to feel important about. Oftentimes you'd hear, and it's the same in social work and social care, that you're so busy in the office doing up paperwork that tries to kind of prove your worth, to prove to everything that you're doing is worth doing, that you're actually not getting to do as much as the stuff that you were supposed to be doing. It was quite a hard sentence to actually say. I hope it made sense.
Yeah. But like, even like when you go into a youth club, like you do when you join a group and stuff, you do up a contract and like respect, and like it can help strengthen, develop your morals and things like that, like respecting each other, communicating, teamwork, leadership. Like, there's programs like the music technology one I did, which taught me how to use Logic Pro X, and there's another one. It was an army program that was started with James Rourke. I can't pronounce the last name. Apologize, and Stephen Bunny, and younger people and then some older people like under 18 into little groups, working together, leading, discipline, fitness, having the right attitude, like just like respect, standing up straight, like the things that should be taught and the things that isn't taught, that like at home for everyone. Like,
there's like the emphasis on having the young people being able to critically think about their own society, about their own community. That's not going to be taught on one-on-one stuff, and that's not often taught in school as much as it could be. So anything that will give young people a bit more purchase in their own community and feeling a bit more belonging, I think is great. And I think it can be overlooked sometimes when people are looking to do their budgets. I think there could be an awful lot more integrated within the social care, social work system as well. And, you know, across the board, professionals could be working very hard with each other. But it's about communicating. And hopefully this podcast has kind of given youth workers and also social workers, social care workers, foster carers, and of course young people, because young people in care, if you were moved from one placement into a place you don't know, a youth project is a great place to learn about where you are, to meet new people and to learn new stuff, figure out stuff and change stuff.
Yeah, summed up perfectly, Peter.
Thanks very much.
Beautiful words.
Okay, listen, I think we can sign off this podcast. Thanks so much to Mick O Brien and Katelyn Kelly for the Kieran Burke, obviously. But I was going to give a special thanks there to Katelyn Kelly for allowing us to read out the poems. We're going to be reading a few more out in the next 2. We have 2 episodes in the can for you. One is, no, they're both. It's actually part 1 and 2. It's about homelessness, about the unfortunate pathway from the care system into homelessness. And hopefully we'll be able to do some more work around that next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 8 of the Care Experience.
Like and subscribe to the Caresystem podcast.